P.T. Logan's 5 Minutes of Terror. Twisted, troubling tales to send a chill up your spine.
Meatloaf. How's the meatloaf, Ava? Ava forced herself to swallow. It's good. Awesome, because I used a new recipe. Ava looked down at her plate and saw that she'd only taken a single bite. The truth was, the meatloaf was not good. Not good at all. It was dry, bordering on sawdust. But it wasn't just the texture. The flavor was also off. It had a fruity quality to it that reminded Ava of a Christmas loaf rather than a meatloaf. "What would you give it out of 10? Ava's dad asked. Ava looked across the table and saw that behind her father's glasses, his caring brown eyes were staring at her expectantly. She didn't have the heart to tell him that it was terrible. 7, she said hesitantly. When Ava saw her father's eyes narrow, she quickly added, 0.9, 7.9. He moved his head up and down. Okay, not bad, I get it. I'll do better tomorrow. Ava's dad then took his plate to the counter, and as he did, Ava lowered her own plate of meatloaf beneath the table. Baxter, their loyal German shepherd, quickly scarfed it up. When it was all gone, Ava quickly put the plate back on her placemat. All done. Ava's father, who had been washing his plate, turned and smiled at her. He opened his mouth to speak, but was cut off by a noise. It was Baxter, and the dog was moaning. What's wrong with Baxter? Her dad asked. Ava nudged the dog, and the German shepherd slowly walked over to his bed and collapsed into it. Nothing, he's fine, Ava said with a smile. New recipe today, Ava's dad proclaimed as he placed a steaming meatloaf in the center of the table. Ava swallowed hard. Great. It was worse than yesterday. Ava wasn't sure how that was possible, but it was. Whereas yesterday's meatloaf had been dry, today's was wet, but not a good kind of wet. It was wet and slimy, like the white part of an undercooked egg. Ava took one bite, and her stomach instantly revolted. It took 3 attempts for her to swallow the tiny piece of meatloaf. Not bad, it's not bad. Ava's dad frowned. Great? Remembering how disappointed her dad had been with yesterday's 7.9 grade, Ava quickly made a calculated decision. 7.8. Oh, okay. After finishing his portion, Ava's dad took his plate out. Like yesterday, Ava quickly lowered her dish below the table, but Baxter took one look at it and then hurried to his bed and flopped down. Thanks a lot. That left Twinkle, Ava's cat. She offered this night's rendition of the meatloaf to the animal, and she quickly ate it all. All done. Twinkle suddenly meowed, and Ava's dad asked, What's wrong with your cat? Ava shrugged. Nothing. Day 3 meatloaf was the worst Ava had ever had in her entire life. Try as she might, she couldn't swallow it. She couldn't even describe it. What are you? 7.7, Ava said quickly, and then discreetly spat the abomination in her mouth into a napkin. When her father rose from the table, Ava held her plate beneath it. But neither Twinkle nor Baxter wanted anything to do with the meatloaf. Ava didn't blame them. Aren't you going to finish? Her dad asked, one eyebrow raised behind his glasses. Ava glanced down at the meatloaf, then at her dad, then at the meatloaf again. I have to get rid of it, she thought, but there's no way I'm eating it. And if Twinkle and Baxter don't want it, where can I put it? Of course I'm going to eat it, Ava lied. Good. Ava was getting desperate now. She couldn't put her entire slice in the napkin without her father noticing. Her heart started to race, but then she spotted the large plant near the window. It was her father's prized Venus flytrap. It was huge, more than large enough to fit 3 full meatloaves into it, let alone a single slice. The only problem was that Ava's father had told her on more than one occasion that the plant was never, ever to eat meat. But there was nowhere else. When Ava's dad went back to washing his plate, she made her decision. She rushed over to the plant and shoved the slice of meatloaf into its open jaw. Ava had seen her father feed the plant dozens of times before. Each time he would put a small piece of food, some sort of vitamin in the plant's jaws that made it grow so big, and the plant would take almost an hour to close. Not so with the meatloaf. The plant's jaws snapped closed so quickly that they made an audible click. Ava jumped back. Everything all right? Of course, Ava said, showing her dad her now empty plate. All done. No meatloaf today? Ava asked. No, not today. Today I made pasta, her dad replied. Ava's eyes lit up and then her stomach started to growl. The pasta. It was simply delicious. Ava had seconds and then thirds. What do you give it? 10. I give it a 10, Ava said quickly. It's amazing. Ava's dad's face lit up and he started to glow. Great, that's really great. Ava was about to clear the table when she heard a sound from her right. It was the Venus flytrap. It was bigger today, a lot bigger, and it seemed to be leaning toward Ava's chair. She took the final pasta noodle and put it in the plant's mouth, but it just fell out. Ava shook her head and then quickly cleaned the dishes and went to bed. The following day, Ava's dad made pasta again, and it was just as good as yesterday, perhaps even better. Like last night, Ava had 3 bowls, enjoying each and every bite. Ava, have you seen Twinkle? Her father asked when they were done eating. Ava thought about this for a moment, and then realized that she hadn't seen her cat all day. No, I don't think so. For some reason, Ava's eyes drifted toward the window. Her gaze fell on the Venus flytrap, and she was shocked to see that its jaws were closed. She was even more startled when she saw Twinkle's collar nestled on the soil near the base of the plant. The third day of pasta, and Ava was in heaven. The first 2 days, her father had made meat sauce, but today it was garlic and butter. But it was no less delicious. Her father, however, seemed a bit off, and Ava asked him what was wrong. He held up the collar with one finger. Ava, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but I can't find Baxter. I think maybe he got out somehow. Oh no, Ava replied, sounding genuinely concerned. And Twinkle is still missing. I'll go out tonight and look for them. Shaking, Ava glanced over at the plant. It was huge now, nearly reaching the ceiling. Where did you find the collar? Ava asked. Over by the plant, her dad replied, as he left the house to go looking for the missing animals. There was nothing for dinner. There was nothing for dinner tonight, because Ava couldn't find her father, and she had no idea where he went. He hadn't been there when she got home from school, and when Ava called his cell phone, it went right to the machine. Dad? Dad? He wasn't upstairs, and the bathrooms were all empty. Eventually, Ava found herself standing in front of the Venus flytrap. Its massive jaws were open today, and even though she knew that it was impossible, Ava thought that it was smiling at her. And in the dirt, she found her father's glasses. Ava picked them up as a single tear rolled down her cheek. Then her stomach growled, reminding her that it was dinner time. She began to remove ingredients from the fridge, and before she knew it, Ava was already done. She cocked her head to one side as she stared at her creation. It was meatloaf, of course, and when she took her first bite, she wondered what grade her father might have given it, had he still been around.
P.T. Logan's 5 Minutes of Terror. Twisted, troubling tales to send a chill up your spine.